Valara had always believed she understood the galaxy. She had spent years studying its politics, its rivalries, and most importantly, the strange and unpredictable species that filled its star systems. Among them, humans were the ones she trusted the least. To her, they were impulsive, emotional, and far too comfortable taking risks that no disciplined strategist would ever accept. Every report she had read about them felt the same. Heroic last stands, dangerous solo missions, and improvised plans that somehow succeeded even when every calculation said they should fail. To Valara, this was not bravery. It was chaos, disguised as courage. As the highest-ranked strategist in the Aurelian Alliance, she valued order more than anything. Her world, Aurelian Prime, was famous for its structure, its logic, and its clear sense of purpose. Every citizen was raised to believe in the importance of coordination and discipline. Emotion was allowed, of course, but never at the expense of reason. That balance was what had kept their species safe for centuries, and Valara had devoted her life to defending it. So when she received orders to work alongside a human military unit, she almost refused. It wasn't that she disliked humans personally. She just did not trust a species that rushed toward danger before fully understanding it. The Alliance was at war with the Orcs Dominion, a ruthless and aggressive enemy that had already destroyed entire outposts along the Outer Rim. The situation demanded precision and caution. Bringing humans into the mix felt, to her, like inviting disorder into a fragile situation. Still, she followed her orders. The humans were scheduled to arrive on Forward Station Lumea, a floating command hub positioned above the contested border systems. Valara stood on the observation platform as their transport ship approached. Her posture perfectly straight, her expression calm, though her mind was anything but. She watched the sleek transport vessel glide toward the docking bay, its engines glowing a soft blue. Human engineering was not elegant, but she admitted it was functional. Around her, Aurelian officers whispered with curiosity. Most of them had never worked with humans before. They wondered what to expect. Some were excited. Others were nervous. Valara was neither. She simply prepared herself for inconvenience. When the transport finally docked, the doors opened, releasing a wave of armored human soldiers. They walked in strong, confident strides, scanning the station with a trained awareness that hinted at years of battle experience. Humans had shorter lifespans than Aurelians, but they seemed to squeeze more intensity into every year. And then she saw him. Sergeant Elias Ward did not stand out at first glance. He was tall for a human, with a steady posture and a quiet expression. His uniform was worn but clean, decorated with a few commendations that he didn't seem to care much about. His eyes were calm but alert, and his movements were controlled, almost gentle. Despite his heavy armor, he did not look reckless to Valara, only focused. But she dismissed the thought almost immediately. Appearances were not evidence. Commander Stratel, her superior, greeted the humans warmly. Sergeant Ward, welcome to Forward Station Lumea. We appreciate your unit joining us in this critical time. Elias nodded. We're ready to assist, however we can. We've studied the situation against the Orcs Dominion and are prepared for coordinated operations. Valara raised an eyebrow. It was rare to hear a human emphasize coordination. Only when the introductions were finished did Stratel gesture toward her. This is Strategist Valara. She will be the primary operations leader for this joint mission. Elias turned to her, offering a respectful nod. It's an honor. I've heard a lot about your work. Valara merely replied, I hope your expectations are realistic. She did not mean it as an insult, but his slight smile told her he understood the edge in her voice. He didn't seem bothered. That annoyed her more than if he had snapped back. Before they could continue, the station's alarm system screamed to life. A sharp, pulsing siren echoed through the halls. Red lights flashed across the ceiling. Valara's mind shifted instantly into combat mode. She tapped her wrist console. Orcs vessels detected in the outer perimeter. They're launching attack drones, an officer reported through the comm channel. That made no sense. The Orcs rarely attacked stations head-on. Something was wrong. She turned toward the humans. "Follow me." Quickly. The group ran through the station's corridors. Valara moved fast, her long steps filled with urgency. Human boots thundered behind her. She reached the command deck and immediately pulled up the tactical display. Multiple red markers blinked on the holomap. The Orcs drones had already breached the outer defenses. "This attack wasn't predicted," Valara muttered. "Their strategy is changing." Elias stepped beside her, studying the display with a calm intensity that surprised her. "They're going for the support struts," he said, "not the main command deck. They want to destabilize the station's orbit before hitting the core." Valara blinked. She had reached the same conclusion, but only after analyzing the trajectory. He had seen it instantly. "You're certain?" she asked. "Very." Before she could question him further, the station shook violently. The lights flickered. A warning flashed on every screen. Strut C-12 breached. Enemy drones, inside auxiliary corridors. Valara snapped into action. "We need to intercept before they reach the energy ducts. If they overload them, the entire station could." Another explosion cut her off. The floor trembled. A burst of smoke and sparks erupted from the corridor beside the command deck. And then the enemy came. 3 Orcs drones, metallic and spiked, rolled into the hallway. Their glowing sensors locking onto the nearest targets, her and the human soldiers. Valara reached for her plasma blade. But before she could ignite it, something blurred in front of her. Elias moved. He didn't hesitate. He didn't pause. He didn't even seem to think. His body shifted into motion with a speed and precision Valara did not expect. He surged forward, firing quick bursts from his rifle. 2 drones exploded in midair. The third shot a blast of energy directly toward Valara. She had no time to dodge. Elias did. He lunged sideways, slamming into her with controlled force, pushing her out of the drone's firing line. The blast hit the wall behind them, sending shards of debris scattering. Elias rolled to his feet, fired another shot, and the final drone burst into pieces. Valara stared at him. It was not the fall that shocked her. It was the fact that he had reacted before she had even drawn her weapon. He had risked himself without hesitation, not recklessly, but with complete situational awareness. "Are you hurt?" he asked calmly, offering a hand to help her up. She took it, stunned by how natural the gesture felt. "I am unharmed." He nodded once, then turned back toward the smoke-filled corridor. "More incoming. We need to move." The humans formed a protective line around the Arlen officers. Elias took point beside Valara, his weapon raised, his posture steady. There was no arrogance in him, no need to show off. He simply acted with purpose. As they advanced, Valara found herself glancing at him more often than she intended. His movements were efficient. His awareness was sharp. He communicated with his squad through brief hand signals and quiet instructions, and though she hated to admit it, he had understood the enemy's strategy faster than she had. They reached the central engineering wing just as the drone swarm breached the far wall. The air filled with the sound of buzzing metal and crackling energy. Valara engaged her plasma blade, slicing through the closest drone. Sparks flew. The humans fired in coordinated patterns, pushing the swarm back. But then the worst happened. A large Orcs breacher drone smashed through a maintenance hatch twice the size of the others, with armored plating and a glowing energy core. Its sensors locked onto the main power conduit. Valara shouted, "If it detonates." "I know," Elias answered, sprinting toward it. She almost ordered him to stop. The drone was too powerful for a direct attack. But before the command left her lips, Elias slid across the floor, ducking under its first blast. He fired upward, hitting a weak joint beneath its armor. The drone staggered, turning its weapon toward him. Valara leaped forward, slicing its other joint. Together, they hit it from both sides. The drone overloaded, its energy core glowing bright before exploding in a contained burst. When the smoke cleared, Valara realized she was standing shoulder to shoulder with him. The corridor was silent except for the fading hum of disabled drones. Elias glanced at her. "Is the station stable?" She checked her wrist console. "For now," She hesitated, then added, "Your actions prevented catastrophic damage." Elias offered a faint smile. "That's what I'm here for." Valera studied him closely, this human she had doubted before even meeting him. He wasn't reckless. He wasn't chaotic. He was calm, decisive, and capable in ways she hadn't expected. And worst of all, she realized she might have misjudged humanity far more than she wanted to admit. For the first time in her life, she wondered if humans were not the problem she believed them to be, but a force the Alliance desperately needed. And perhaps, she thought with an uneasy feeling she could not name, she needed them too. The station attack changed something between Valera and Elias. Though neither spoke about it directly, they were both too focused on the growing threat of the Orcs' dominion. The next morning, the command deck was filled with tense movement. Officers rushed across the room, passing data pads back and forth, screens flickered with urgent updates, and the air held the weight of decisions that could shape the fate of entire worlds. Valera stood near the holotable, reviewing the latest reports. Overnight, 3 more Alliance colonies had sent distress signals. The Orcs were expanding faster than expected, using new tactics that confused even experienced strategists. They attacked supply lines one moment, then isolated colonies the next, always keeping the Alliance off balance. Elias approached her, quiet as always. Humans tended to walk loudly, but he moved with the awareness of someone who had spent years in dangerous places. "You look like you've been up all night," he said gently. "I have," Valera replied without looking away from the projection. "The Orcs are changing their patterns. I can't predict their next move." "You will," Elias said simply, as if it were fact. He leaned slightly over the table, studying the red and blue markers that shifted across the map. "You always do." Valera finally looked at him. The faint confidence in his voice surprised her again. He spoke not like someone who wanted to impress her, but like someone who genuinely believed in her abilities. It was strange, unfamiliar, and oddly grounding. Stratel joined them moments later. "Orlan Colony Theta 9 has sent a distress call. They're under Orc scanner assault. We need to respond." Valera frowned. "Theta 9 is a civilian colony. It holds no military value." "Exactly," Elias said, "which means the Orcs want to pressure the Alliance into spreading their forces thin." Stratel nodded. "We will dispatch a small joint scouting team. Valera, Elias, you will lead it." Valera blinked. "Both of us?" "Yes," Stratel confirmed. "Your strategic insight, Sergeant Ward's field instincts. Together, you might understand the Orcs' new strategy." Valera opened her mouth to protest. She didn't like working with someone she couldn't predict. But after yesterday, she wasn't sure she could justify refusing. Elias had saved the station. He had saved her, and she couldn't ignore that. So instead, she simply nodded. Very well. The two of them left the station with a small team of Orlan scouts and human soldiers. The ride to Theta 9 was quiet. Valera spent most of it reviewing old Orcs tactics while Elias checked his squad's equipment. Every time she glanced at him, he seemed calm, focused, and ready. She did not understand how a species with such short lives found this kind of steady discipline. Humans aged quickly, but they lived intensely, as if they wanted each moment to matter. When they arrived, the colony looked peaceful from orbit, too peaceful. No explosions, no smoke, no visible signs of attack. "It looks normal," one Orlan scout said hesitantly. "Which means it isn't," Elias answered. "Stay alert." The colony's landing field was silent when their shuttle touched down. The air smelled faintly of dust and metal. Small wind turbines spun slowly, but not a single civilian could be seen outside. Valera stepped onto the ground first, her senses sharp. Theta 9 usually has children outside by this hour. Something is wrong. Elias scanned the area with his visor. Heat signatures inside the buildings. "They're hiding." Valera's chest tightened. "From what?" Elias didn't answer immediately. Instead, he pointed toward the communications tower near the colony center. A strange humming sound echoed in the air, low and pulsing. That sound, Valara whispered. It's Othrex scanning technology. Elias nodded. They're mapping the population. But why hasn't the colony been attacked directly? Valara was already thinking the same thing. They're searching for something. Or someone. As they approached the tower, Valara saw damage marks, scorch lines, deep scratches from Othrex drones. But still, no enemy in sight. The colony leader, a tired Aurelin elder, met them at the entrance. He bowed his head in relief. Strategist Valara, thank the stars you came. What's happening here? She asked. We don't know, he replied with shaking hands. The Othrex sent drones 2 days ago, but they did not attack. They just scanned our buildings, our people, our farms, and then they left. But the scanning signal remained. It is coming from the forest. Elias exchanged a glance with Valara. Something's hiding out there. Something dangerous, Valara added quietly. The elder nodded. We have ordered the civilians to stay inside. Please find whatever the Othrex left behind. Valara and Elias moved toward the forest with their team. The trees were tall and thin, glowing slightly with bioluminescent vines. Aurelin forests always felt calm, peaceful, but today the air felt heavy, like it was holding its breath. Elias walked beside her, silently observing their surroundings. He rarely spoke unless he had something important to say. She found that refreshing. At last, they reached a clearing. And there, in the center, half hidden beneath vines, stood the source of the scanning signal, an Othrex device. It was large, pulsing with green energy, and shaped like a twisted spire. The ground around it was scorched. Valara stepped forward cautiously. This is unfamiliar. I've never seen this model. It's too advanced. Elias circled it slowly. It's transmitting coordinates. Constantly. Then to what? Elias pointed toward the sky. To something already here. Valara felt a shiver run down her spine. A ground infiltrator? Maybe, Elias said. Or a new type of drone. Before she could respond, a sharp mechanical whine pierced the air. 3 Othrex-cloaked drones decloaked from the treetops, dropping toward them. Positions, Elias shouted. The team scattered. Valara activated her plasma blade, slicing one drone in half as it lunged. Sparks exploded. The second drone fired a shot toward a human soldier, but Elias pulled the soldier aside and shot the drone mid-air. The third drone fled into the forest. Fast as lightning. It's getting away, an Aurelin scout yelled. Let it, Elias said calmly but firmly. If we chase blindly, it'll lead us into an ambush. Valara agreed. He is right. The Othrex planned this. They wanted us to follow. Elias inspected the spire again. This isn't a scanning device. It's a beacon. It's marking this colony for something larger. Valara took a deep breath. We need to disable it. Elias nodded. Let me check for traps. But before he could move, the ground trembled. The vines around the spire tightened, glowing brighter. The device hummed loudly, as if reacting to their presence. Something's triggering it, Valara said urgently. Elias stepped closer. It's overheating. If it detonates, he didn't need to finish. They both knew. Stand back, he ordered. Valara didn't argue. She pulled the team away. Elias knelt beside the spire, working quickly. His fingers moved with careful precision, much faster than Valara expected. She watched him closely, her heart pounding. Every instinct in her told her the device was seconds away from exploding, and yet Elias worked with complete focus. Almost, he muttered. The spire shrieked, pulsing brighter. Elias, she yelled. Got it. He pulled a core module free. The spire's energy flickered, sputtered, then died. The forest fell silent. Valara breathed again, only realizing now she'd been holding her breath. She approached him. Her steps slower than usual. You risked yourself, she said quietly. Again. Elias stood, brushing dirt from his gloves. Someone had to. You act before analyzing all possibilities, she said, trying to hide the tremor in her voice. He met her gaze, calm and steady. "No. I act after analyzing the fastest safe option." She blinked. His answer was simple, but it struck her deeply. Humans acted fast not because they were reckless, but because they adapted faster than most species. Their minds processed danger in seconds. She had misinterpreted instinct as chaos. It wasn't chaos at all. It was experience. They reported back to the colony elder, then returned to the shuttle. As they prepared to leave, Vaelara noticed the way civilians looked at Elias like he was a shield they never expected to receive, and the way he spoke with them, offering reassurance, not promises. On the shuttle ride back, Valara found herself studying him quietly. Not in judgment. Not in suspicion. Just curiosity. "Sergeant," she said finally. "Yes? You understood the beacon. You reacted faster than most soldiers." "How?" Elias shrugged lightly. "I've seen a lot. Humans learn from chaos because our worlds don't stay peaceful for long. We don't have centuries to study everything, so we adapt." Valara considered this. "Your kind surprises me." "In a good way?" Elias asked with a small smile. She looked at him longer than she intended. "Yes," she admitted softly. "In a good way." The shuttle continued toward the station, leaving Theta 9 behind them. But Valara felt something had shifted. The mission had taught her more than any report or study ever had. Humans weren't unpredictable. They were prepared for the unpredictable. And Elias, he was unlike any human she had ever met. His calm strength, his courage, and the way he made her question her own assumptions unsettled her deeply. For the first time, she wondered not what humanity might break, but what they might build, and that thought lingered with her long after they docked at the station again. The days after the Theta 9 mission were tense across the entire Alliance. Reports of strange Orcs activity continued to arrive, and every system near the border prepared for an attack. Forward Station Lumia became a center of nonstop planning. Officers walked faster. Voices stayed low and serious. And even the air seemed heavier. Vaelara worked longer hours than anyone else. She reviewed every pattern, every signal, every bit of data they had collected from the Orcs beacon. But no matter how many simulations she ran, she could not understand the Dominion's new strategy. They were unpredictable in a way that didn't feel random, it felt intentional. Elias spent most of his time helping the joint squads prepare for deployment. Valara often saw him training younger soldiers, both human and Aurelin. He guided them with patience and quiet confidence. She noticed more things about him now. The way he listened before speaking. The way he stayed calm even when others panicked. The way he always made time for anyone who needed reassurance. He had become a stabilizing presence on the station, though he never acted like he realized it. One evening, long after most officers had left the command deck, Vaelara was still studying the Orcs patterns when she heard footsteps behind her. "Still awake?" Elias asked gently. "It is difficult to rest when I cannot solve a problem," she replied without turning. He walked closer, stopping beside her. "You've been staring at these maps for hours. Sometimes stepping away helps." Valara sighed. "You misunderstand. This is not frustration. This is responsibility. You think you're not allowed to rest because people depend on your plans," he said softly. "I understand that." She finally looked at him. "Do you?" "Yes," he answered without hesitation. "A leader always feels the weight of others." Quote, the simplicity of his words struck her. Before she could respond, the alarm lights flashed through the room again. A message appeared instantly on the holo screen. Orcs attack detected. Colony Vespera under immediate threat. Hostile fleet inbound. Estimated destruction. High probability. Vaelara's heart tightened. Vespera was one of the Alliance's largest colonies, and one of its most vulnerable. Stratel arrived quickly, calling officers to attention. "We need a rapid response team on the ground," he announced. "Before the Orcs fleet reaches orbit." Valara stepped forward. "I will lead the operation." Elias stepped beside her. "I'll join her." Stratel nodded firmly. "Good. You two work well together." Valara felt a strange warmth at the words, though she immediately pushed it away. This was not the time to think about that. Within minutes, she and Elias boarded the drop transport with a mixed squad of human and Aurelin soldiers. The craft shot into hyperspace, shaking from the speed. Valera reviewed the mission details while Elias checked the team's equipment. "What do we know?" he asked. "The Othrex fleet will arrive in less than an hour," she answered. "We must set up defenses and evacuate civilians before they begin orbital bombardment." "And the beacon data?" he asked. "Still unclear," she admitted. "But I fear Vespera may not be a random target." Elias nodded. "Then we'll protect it anyway." When they dropped out of hyperspace, Vespera's sky was already darkening. Strange clouds swirled overhead, glowing faint green as if reacting to the incoming fleet. Valara frowned. "That is not natural. The Othrex are manipulating the atmosphere." Elias scanned the readings. "They're prepping the air for a destabilization attack. That attack could wipe out entire regions," Valara whispered. The transport landed hard. The team rushed outside. Civilians were already running toward shelters, fear heavy in their eyes. Elias raised his voice so they could all hear him. "We're here to protect you. Move quickly. And stay together." His calm tone cut through the panic like a blade. Civilians surged toward the evacuation point with more order, following his direction. Valara was impressed again. Elias wasn't just brave, he made others brave. They worked for several minutes, guiding families and children into reinforced buildings. The air grew colder. The clouds thickened. Distant thunder rumbled even though there was no storm, and then the first explosion hit. A shockwave blasted across the colony. Dust and debris shot into the air. The ground trembled. Valara shielded herself as fragments of metal rained down. Elias grabbed her arm. "You okay?" "Yes," she said quickly. "Defensive positions. Ready weapons." The sky cracked open as Othrex attack drones poured down like falling stars. Their glowing sensors locked on every living target, firing blasts of green energy. The soldiers fired back, creating bright streaks across the battlefield. Valara activated her blade and sliced through a drone that came too close. Elias shot another down with precise accuracy, but there were too many. "We need to drop the atmosphere shield," Valara shouted. "The colony's defenses won't last otherwise." Elias nodded. "You go. I'll cover you." "No," she said quickly. "It is too dangerous alone." "I'll be fine," he said, eyes steady. "You're the strategist. We need that shield, or everyone here dies." She hesitated, torn between logic and instinct. But Elias's eyes were firm, and she trusted him in a way that still confused her. She ran toward the control tower with 2 Aurelin soldiers, while Elias and the rest held the line. The tower's door was locked by enemy interference, but Valara used her console to override it. Inside, sparks rained from damaged circuits. "Hurry!" a soldier urged. Valara's hands raced across the controls. She bypassed the firewall, rewired the power line, and activated the shield generator. A massive blue dome of energy spread across the colony, blocking most of the incoming blasts. She breathed out in relief, shield activated, but when she looked out the window, her heart lurched. Elias was surrounded. Othrex drones circled him, firing non-stop. He moved fast, blocking shots, rolling for cover, firing back at any opening he could see. His squad fought bravely beside him, but the drones kept coming. Valara didn't think. She sprinted out of the tower, her blade glowing bright, cutting through the first drone she reached. Elias turned at the sound of her approach. "I told you I'd cover you," he said breathlessly, firing another shot. "And I told you not to go alone," she answered sharply. Elias gave her the smallest smile despite the battle. "You're stubborn. I learned it from you," she shot back. They fought together, their movements strangely synchronized. Valara sliced, Elias fired. She stepped forward, he covered her flank. They moved like 2 parts of a single strategy, calculated precision mixed with quick instinct. But the Othrex were not finished. A loud metallic screech echoed across the battlefield as a massive Othrex war construct descended from the sky. It landed with crushing force, shaking the ground, taller than any mech, Its armor glowed with green veins of energy. Valara's breath caught. That technology, I have never seen anything like it. Elias's jaw tightened. That's what your beacon was calling. The construct raised its arms, charging a devastating energy blast aimed at the shield generator. If it hit, the shield would collapse. The colony would be exposed. Thousands would die. Valara stepped forward. We must stop it. Elias grabbed her shoulder. We will. But you can't face that thing alone. I am not alone, she said quietly, meeting his eyes. Elias nodded once. Then let's do this. They ran toward the construct with their squad covering them. The machine fired a barrage of energy blasts. Elias pulled Valara behind a wrecked vehicle just in time. It's scanning us, Valara said. It's adapting to our movements. Then we don't move predictably, Elias replied. He rushed out first, drawing the construct's attention. Valara followed, using the distraction to get closer. Elias fired at its joints, forcing the machine to adjust its stance. Valara leaped forward, blade slicing into an exposed conduit. The machine shrieked, sparks raining like bright green rain. Again, Elias shouted. Top left joint. She moved instantly. He covered her with rapid fire. Together, they disabled joint after joint. The machine grew unsteady. Then it prepared its final attack, a core overload blast aimed directly at the shield generator. Valara's eyes widened. If it fires, Elias didn't hesitate. He sprinted toward the construct, climbing onto its back, gripping the armor. Valara's heart stopped. Elias, no, but he didn't stop. He reached the glowing core panel and ripped the access plate off with sheer force. The energy glowed dangerously bright. Valara ran forward, leaping onto the machine beside him, her blade cutting into the exposed core. Together, they pulled, pushed, and sliced as the machine convulsed. Its energy fluctuated wildly. Jump, Elias shouted. They launched themselves off the machine just as the core exploded in a controlled burst, powerful but not enough to destroy the shield generator. The construct collapsed, its limbs twitching before finally going still. The battlefield fell silent. Valara lay on the ground for several seconds, breathing hard. Elias landed beside her, equally exhausted. You're alive, she said, her voice trembling. Same to you, he replied with a tired smile. She looked at him, truly looked at him, and felt something shift inside her, a realization she wasn't prepared to face. He had risked everything again, not recklessly, not foolishly, but because he refused to let anyone die if he could stop it. She whispered, barely audible. Why do you always put yourself in danger? Elias answered softly. Because I can handle it. And because someone has to make the first move. Valara stared at him, her heart beating too fast. She knew then that she had been wrong about humans. And she knew even more clearly that Elias Ward was not like any soldier she had ever known. He was something far more dangerous, and far more important. The battle for Vespera changed the entire station. When Valara and Elias returned to Forward Station Lumea, they were welcomed with relief and admiration. Rumors spread quickly how they fought side by side, how they destroyed a massive Orcs war construct, and how they saved an entire colony from certain destruction. Soldiers whispered their names with respect. Officers cited their teamwork as a model for joint missions. Even civilians sent messages of gratitude. But Valara felt little pride. She felt something deeper and heavier, because the Orcs threat was not over. The destroyed construct confirmed that the Dominion had developed technology far beyond previous conflicts, and buried beneath the victory was a truth she could no longer ignore. Elias wasn't like other humans, at least, not the ones she had studied. He was calm in chaos, firm in danger, and gentle when speaking to frightened civilians. He fought with discipline, not reckless instinct, and he understood her in ways she didn't expect from someone outside her own species. It unsettled her, because she found herself thinking about him even during quiet moments, replaying the way he fought beside her, the way he trusted her decisions without question, and the way he had looked at her after the battle, tired, bruised, but still full of determination. She told herself this was simply professional respect, but deep down, she knew it wasn't only that. 3 days after the Vespera mission, the command deck received the worst news yet. A massive Orcs fleet, larger than anything the Alliance had ever faced, was moving toward the Aurelian core planets. If they reached Aurelian Prime, the homeworld itself would fall. The room filled with silence as the hollow screen displayed the incoming enemy formation. Hundreds of ships. Maybe thousands. Vaelara's heart tightened. The Alliance had forces, but not enough to withstand the full Dominion fleet. Stratel sighed heavily. If they reach the core, millions will die. Vaelara studied the patterns, looking for clues, weaknesses, anything that could help. But her mind felt clouded with exhaustion. Elias noticed this instantly. He stepped close enough that only she could hear him. Take a breath. We'll figure this out. Her voice came out quieter than she intended. This may be the end, Elias. He shook his head. Not while we're still standing. Something in his tone steadied her. She looked at the map again, and suddenly noticed something that made her eyes sharpen. The fleet is not moving in a straight line, she said slowly. Stratel frowned. What do you mean? Vaelara zoomed in on the formation. They're adjusting their shape every few minutes. This is not a direct assault, this is a search pattern. For what? One officer asked. Vaelara looked at Elias. For the beacon locations. Elias nodded firmly. Then they're not heading for the core. They're trying to find all the marked colonies first. And once they do, Vaelara added, they'll send the war constructs. Much stronger versions of the one we fought. Stratel's face went pale. Then we cannot wait for them to strike. We must intercept them now. But we cannot fight a fleet that size, an officer argued. No, Vaelara said. But we can stop their command ship. The room turned silent again. Elias stepped closer to the map. You think the fleet is being controlled by a central unit? Yes, she answered. The fleet movements are too precise. Too coordinated. Something is linking them. A hive system, Elias said. If we take out the central node, the others will be confused. Exactly, Vaelara said. We need a small team to infiltrate the command ship and override its core. Stratel hesitated. It would be a one-way mission, almost impossible. Vaelara's voice softened. Not impossible. And not one way. Elias watched her with a calm but knowing expression. You want to lead the team. She met his eyes. I must. I understand their patterns better than anyone. He nodded slowly. Then I'm going with you. Vaelara opened her mouth to protest but stopped. Elias was the only one who had fought beside her through every moment of this new war. He had saved her life more times than she could count, and she trusted him in ways she did not trust anyone else. So she simply said, very well. The infiltration team was small, 8 soldiers total. 4 humans, 4 Aurelians. They boarded a stealth shuttle designed to slip through enemy scanners. As they launched into space, the view of the stars felt colder than usual. The Orcs fleet glowed in the distance like a dark storm ready to descend. Vaelara sat at the front, reviewing the command ship's design. Elias sat beside her, quietly adjusting his armor. You're tense, he said softly. I am not, she replied. You are, he insisted. I can tell. She looked at him, unsure whether to feel annoyed or grateful. You always read me correctly. That's because you don't hide as much as you think, he said gently. Vaelara looked away. This mission will be dangerous. Every mission is dangerous, Elias replied. But we'll get through it. You cannot guarantee that. No, he said, but I can fight to make it true. For a moment, neither spoke. Then Elias said something unexpected. I'm glad I'm doing this with you. Vaelara felt something twist in her chest. Why? Because you don't give up, he answered. And because you make me better. Before she could respond, the shuttle jolted. The command ship was ahead. The infiltration began. They slipped through the ship's lower hangar, landing silently. Inside, the air was cold and filled with a low mechanical hum. Vaelara led the team through narrow corridors, avoiding patrol drones. Elias stayed at her flank, alert and ready. They reached the command core, a massive spherical chamber glowing with green light. Thick cables ran through the walls like veins. At the center stood the control node, pulsing rhythmically. Valara approached slowly. This is it. Elias scanned the room. We need to override the core and shut down the hive signal. But before they could begin, the doors slammed shut. An Orcs commander stepped out, towering and armored. Its glowing eyes locked onto them. The soldiers raised their weapons. Valara whispered. This was a trap. The commander charged. The fight was brutal. Valara dodged a strike that cracked the metal floor. Elias fired at weak points in the armor, drawing its attention. The other soldiers tried to support, but the commander was too strong. One by one, the team fell back, injured but alive. The commander slammed Elias into a wall. Valera's heart jumped. She charged forward, blade igniting, slicing across the creature's arm. It roared, turning its rage on her. Elias pushed himself up, lunging to distract it again. They fought side by side, each movement flowing naturally with the other. Valara's precision and Elias's instinct matched perfectly until Valara saw an opening. Elias, she shouted, the core behind it. He understood instantly. With a running leap, he climbed onto the commander's back, pulling wires and striking its vulnerable joint. Valara stabbed upward, striking the exposed circuit. The commander shrieked and fell. The room went silent. Elias staggered, exhausted. Just bruised, he said. Together, they approached the central core. Valara connected her console. Elias kept watch. The lights flickered. The core pulsed wildly. Panic rose in her chest. It's resisting, she whispered. You can override it, Elias said softly. I trust you. Her hands steadied at his words. With one final command, the core shut down. The green light faded. Across the galaxy, the Orcs fleet lost formation. Ships scattered, confused, breaking coordination. Alliance forces moved fast, pushing back the weakened fleet. Valara exhaled. We did it. Elias leaned against the console, smiling tiredly. Told you. As they waited for extraction, the room was quiet, heavy, full of unspoken meaning. Valara looked at him for a long time. Elias. He met her eyes, gentle and steady. Yes, I doubted humans, she said softly. I doubted you. He smiled faintly. Not anymore? No, she whispered. Not anymore. For the first time, she allowed herself to admit the truth. He wasn't just a soldier. He was the reason she believed humanity had a place in the Alliance. He was the reason she saw a future she had never imagined. And as the rescue team arrived, Valara knew something had changed forever. Not just for the Alliance, not just for the galaxy, but between her and the human soldier who had changed everything,